My name is David Martin, and this is my story. I had always been a wanderer, a seeker of adventure. From the bustling streets of New York City to the serene landscapes of the Swiss Alps, I had explored it all. But nothing could have prepared me for the harrowing ordeal that awaited me deep within the Amazon rainforest. It all began innocently enough. A yearning for something untouched by the modern world led me to the decision to venture into the heart of the Amazon. Armed with little more than a backpack, a machete, and an adventurous spirit, I set off on an expedition that would change my life forever. The rainforest was as breathtaking as it was intimidating. Towering trees, their canopies so dense that they seemed to block out the sun entirely, loomed overhead. The air was thick with humidity, and the relentless chorus of insects and wildlife surrounded me, creating a symphony of chaos that both fascinated and unnerved me. My journey was guided by a charismatic local named Carlos. His tan skin and weathered features spoke volumes of his years spent in the jungle, and his eyes seemed to hold secrets only the rainforest could reveal. Carlos was my key to navigating the labyrinthine network of rivers, creeks, and trails that crisscrossed the Amazon as we delved deeper into the jungle. I couldn't help but be awestruck by the sheer scale of it all. The trees seemed to touch the heavens, and the undergrowth was so dense that it was impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. The air was stifling, and sweat poured off me in rivulets, drenching my clothes. We trekked for days, our machetes hacking through the foliage, and our bodies battling the relentless heat and humidity. The primal beauty of the rainforest was hypnotic, but it also had an airy quality, as if it held ancient secrets that it was reluctant to share. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the jungle came alive with nocturnal sounds, Carlos and I set up camp near a small creek. We gathered firewood and settled in for the night, surrounded by the eerie glow of fireflies. As I lay in my hammock, the jungle's symphony of sounds intensified. The chirping of frogs, the distant roars of unseen creatures, and the rustling of leaves in the wind all combined to create an otherworldly cacophony. It was then that I heard it. A faint, eerie chanting in the distance. I sat up, my heart pounding in my chest. Carlos was already on his feet, his eyes scanning the darkness. "Tribes," he muttered in a hushed voice. "They're out there, performing their rituals. Stay quiet, and they'll leave us be." The chanting grew louder, and I strained my ears to make out the words. The language was incomprehensible, a series of guttural sounds that sent shivers down my spine. Shadows flickered in the underbrush, and I could make out the outlines of figures moving in the darkness. My mind raced with thoughts of ancient Amazonian tribes, untouched by civilization, living in the depths of the rainforest. Were they hostile? Would they view us as intruders in their sacred domain? Carlos, ever the voice of reason, assured me that they were unlikely to be a threat. "These tribes," he said, "have had minimal contact with the outside world. They're more likely to be curious than hostile." With that reassurance, we huddled by the campfire, watching as the chanting continued in the distance. The night passed without incident, and by morning, the eerie sounds had faded into the background. Our journey continued, deeper into the heart of the Amazon. The terrain became more treacherous, the undergrowth denser, and the wildlife more. We pushed our way through a particularly dense thicket. I felt a sharp pain in my leg. I yelped and stumbled back, nearly falling. Carlos rushed to my side, his face a mask of concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, examining my leg. I winced as I looked down. A large, grotesque insect clung to my calf, its long proboscis buried deep in my flesh. Blood oozed from the wound, staining my pants. "It's a botfly," Carlos said grimly. "We need to get it out, or it will lay eggs under your skin." I clenched my teeth as Carlos removed the insect with a pair of tweezers, causing me excruciating pain. He cleaned the wound as best he could, but the jungle was no place for proper medical care. I would have to endure the discomfort and hope for the best. Days turned into weeks as we pressed on, the jungle unforgiving in its demands. I grew gaunt and weary, my clothes tattered, and my body covered in insect bites and scratches. But I couldn't turn back now. The allure of the unknown pushed me forward. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Carlos and I made camp near a wide, slow-moving river. We had reached a remote, untouched corner of the rainforest, far from any signs of civilization. The isolation was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. As we settled in for the night, the jungle once again came alive with its mysterious sounds. But this time, there was something different in the air. A sense of foreboding that I couldn't shake. Carlos seemed on edge as well, his gaze constantly scanning the darkness. "We're deep in their territory now," he whispered to me. "We need to be cautious." I nodded, my heart pounding. The chanting, faint and eerie, had returned, echoing through the trees. It was closer now, and the shadows in the underbrush seemed to move with purpose. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, silhouetted against the faint glow of the fire. It was a man, his body painted with intricate patterns, his face obscured by a grotesque mask made of leaves and twigs. He carried a long spear in one hand. Carlos and I both froze, our breaths caught in our throats. The man stood there, watching us with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. Then, with a guttural cry, he disappeared back into the jungle. "They're here," Carlos muttered, his voice trembling. "The tribesmen. We need to leave. Now." But before we could make a move, they descended upon us like phantoms of the forest. Figures emerged from the shadows, their bodies adorned with paint and feathers, their faces hidden behind masks of leaves and bones. They brandished spears, bows, and blow darts, and their eyes gleamed with a feral intensity. Carlos and I were outnumbered, our weapons inadequate against the onslaught. We tried to communicate, to convey our peaceful intentions, but our words were met with only guttural laughter and indecipherable chants. In the chaos that followed, I was separated from Carlos. I had lost myself in the Amazon. To avoid any further pain or suffering from the tribe, I put my knees on the floor, held my machete firmly, and put it through my stomach.